Very good morning, everyone. My name is Adam from Singapore. I'm the current president for the Singapore Estate Agents Association. So, before I actually jump onto the presentation itself, please allow me a short time to introduce SEAA to you. So basically, SEAA, we are the leading industry associations in Singapore for our real estate agency sector. We are a pretty young association, given the fact that we were only registered back in 2016. But currently, in the industry, we have about 36,000 salespersons, and SEAA represents more than 15,000 salespersons in Singapore. So we are basically the largest in terms of size. So of course, our mission and vision is to form a unified voice for the industry, but at the same time to promote professionalism as well as ethics. So in terms of a membership, we have both what we call the ordinary members as well as associate members. So ordinary members wise, they are what we call voting members. Because in Singapore, the dynamic is a bit different. So agencies are not controlled in size. So agencies can grow. Okay, agencies can grow as big as they want to. As of now, out of the 36,000 salesperson that we have, the largest agency has 1/3 of the size, which is 13,000. Okay? So in terms of professional development, we conduct courses like the RES course, the Real Estate Salesperson course. Before you can become a salesperson in Singapore, you need to take this compulsory course and pass the mandatory examination to become a salesperson, right? But at the same time, if you want to start your own estate agency, okay, you will also need to take what we call the real estate agency course, as well as the mandatory CPD hours. So every year we hold the Excellence Awards. This is the only awards in Singapore agency industry whereby it will be reflected on the public register. Okay, so any public can go to the register and find that the agent has received an award only from the industry, not from agencies. So we conduct, of course, focus groups as well as we are part of the Alliance for Action for the accurate property listings. There are many portals out there. So any salesperson or any person who tries to impersonate a salesperson can actually post property listings. So it forms an issue, okay, a problem, because what happens is that you need the potential buyers or potential tenants will be facing scammers. Okay, or as well as listings that are inaccurate, or what we call duplicate listings. So we form this alliance of industry initiatives so as to tackle on the inaccurate property listings. So we have already done our prototype, and currently we have passed the prototype to our regulator, who is currently trying to build the actual site. Okay. And last month, in the month of April, we are glad that SEAA, as well as the other association, Singapore Institute of Estate Agent, IEA, we have already went through our general meetings. So we are going to form together and become one unified association. Right. So to my slide presentation itself, I have to speak a bit faster, sir, because I got more than 30 slides. Okay. So I'm covering on professional practice of real estate in Singapore. So Singapore real estate is basically very dynamic. Although Singapore is really small, for those of you who have not been to Singapore, Singapore is basically 0.2% the size of Philippines. 0.2%. See how puny is Singapore? Okay, but we are glad, although we are small, so it's also easier to maintain. So, in terms of how do I say it's dynamic? Singapore itself, we have about 250,000 millionaires. Okay, 250,000 millionaires. We have about 4,500 ultra high net worth, which is person with more than $30 million of asset. We have 300 of centi millionaires. 70 million assets, that means you have more than 100 billion of assets. And we have more than 30 billion assets. Okay? And Singapore only have a population of 6 million. Right? So, because of the number of high net worth people that we have, so our luxury market is pretty much very, very resilient. Okay? And at the same time, because Singapore's foundation of residential properties are public flats, most Singaporeans stays in a public housing. Okay? I would say 80% of them stays in the public housing. Right? The key stakeholders in the Singapore real estate market, basically we have the agents as well as salesperson. So what's the difference between agents and salesperson? So basically, in the act itself, the Estate Agent Act, it says that a company, in an estate agency company, we call them agents. And any individual, we call them by the word salesperson. Okay? So a salesperson has to be registered with a company. So of course we have developers, we have the largest developers in Singapore is basically the government. Okay? The Housing Development Board, HDB, they build the public housing, and the private developers will help to build the private properties. Okay, so since the formation of CEA, the regulator, Council for Estate Agency, we started off back in 2011 with about 28,000 salesperson. We started off with about 28,000 salesperson, and back in about 5 years later, in 2015, the number increased to about 30,000. Another 5 years later, back in 2020 was the time where COVID hit. Okay, when COVID hit, the number dropped slightly to about 30,399. And because of COVID, the property market actually, prices was going up. Okay, prices has been going up since COVID. And the number of salesperson currently stands at 36,000. Okay, 36,000. So COVID did not stop the number of people trying to become a salesperson. In fact, okay, it actually propelled the number of people who yearns to be a salesperson because property market is doing well. With the number of salesperson that we have, 36,000 in the population of 6 million, the importance of upholding agent standards is a focus right now. Because we have agents who appear on the public media for the wrong purpose. Okay, agents who did wrongly, putting up fake listings, agent pocketing clients' money, or agents advertising the wrong property information, or as well as agents who were starting to market properties that were not allowed to be marketed. So the number of complaints basically has went up back in 2023. Okay, back in 2023, the number of complaints went up because due to the buoyancy of the market was doing so well, number of salesperson increases, so it also brings about number of unethical practices. Okay, so number of complaints including things like service related, agents being late, agents didn't show up, things like this, or agents putting up wrong information on their advertisement. So these complaints have actually went up. And what does the Council for Estate Agency do? Of course, they take them to task. So it includes things like letter of warning, that is the bare minimum. We have also what we call the letter of censure. A letter of censure can also attach with a fine of up to $5,000 Singapore dollars. And the worst case you can face in terms of a disciplinary committee. Okay, disciplinary committee can impose fine, can impose suspension, or worst case, revocation. Okay, and once revocation, of course, the agent will have to go for another career. So the Council for Estate Agency, basically this is under the Ministry of National Development. Okay, so under Ministry of National Development, we have other step boards like HDB, Housing Development Board, URA, urban renewal, as well as CA. So CA itself is basically a regulator or what we call watchdog. Okay, so it is to promote look after the interest of the consumer. Okay, so to look after the interest of consumer as well as promote agents' ethics and professionalism. So it administers the Estate Agent Act. So under the Estate Agent Act itself, of course, we also publish the Code of Ethics. So as an association, basically before we can publish our own Code of Ethics also, the regulators have already done it, okay, for us. Right? And then how harsh is that? How harsh is the penalties that can be imposed on a salesperson? It can go as high as $100,000 per case for salesperson, and as well as up to $200,000 per case for estate agent. Right. So the regulator basically issue license to estate agent, and estate agent would then get registered salesperson. So it's pretty much very similar to our agency friends from Malaysia or Brunei. Okay, so salesperson are not directly registered with CE. They have to go through a licensed agency. And in Singapore, when you want to perform your real estate salesperson job, you have to wear this tag. Okay, you have to wear this tag. Right? If you don't wear the tag, you cannot perform your work. If you get caught, 12 months imprisonment, $10,000 fine. So we have something is wrong. Alright, so if you wish to start your own estate agent in Singapore, that means an agency firm in Singapore, this is for real estate agent. Okay, so for real estate agent, the individual, so basically they must have a prerequisite of educational requirement, which is at least 4 minimum O-levels, as well as they have to go through the RES course and pass the RES exam. From what I hear from our friends in Philippines and the other ASEAN countries, salesperson will have to go through a few years of course and then go through a mandatory exam. In Singapore, we are very lucky. You can actually take the course, then the shortest course is only 8 days. Okay, it's only 8 days, right? 18 modules. Okay, and you have to go through the mandatory course, the mandatory exam. But three exam sittings per year, and every sitting is capped at 3,000 candidates. So every time to get a seat to become a candidate in the exam, it's like you queuing up to buy a Taylor Swift concert. Okay, and you got to get yourself registered with an estate agency within 2 years from your passing your RES exam. And every year you're supposed to take 16 hours of CPD, mandatory. This includes AML. So there is very strict agency regulations. First thing first, we are not allowed to handle transaction money. So when buyers, tenants, they wish to buy or lease their property, that money cannot go onto the agent's hand. It has to be direct transferred to the landlord or to the seller. Okay, agents can never touch the money. If they touch the money, very straightforward, revocation. Okay, revocation. And we are not allowed to do a rec. What do you mean by do a rec? When one of the parties has got no agent, that one agent in that whole transaction can only collect commission from one party, either the seller or the buyer. Okay, either from the seller or the buyer. Oh yeah, I forgotten the add-on. Actually, in SEA, we also started an initiative industry-wide. So back in 2023, we signed MOU with many agencies in Singapore, including the big boys. So we are promoting that every transaction, agents should collect commission from their own client rather than to share. Because in Singapore, co-broking doesn't spell that you must share commission. So they left it empty, unspoken. You guys go and handle the rest. So this creates a problem. There could be co-broking with sharing of com, there could be co-broking without sharing of com. Right? So it's very unfair for the clients. So we are actually promoting that co-broking, you should actually collect commission from your own. And we are not allowed to refer any clients to money lender, or as well as we are not also supposed to refer any referrals for money lenders as well. Again, if you got caught, it is basically revocation. This thing goes back automatically. I don't understand. Alright. So the ethical and professional conduct, things like professional integrity is important. Right? This is also spelled out in part of the legislation. Agents must always act in honesty and also integrity. Avoid any conflict of interest. In case of whereby the counterparties is your immediate family members, the counterparties is from the same agency, we are supposed to declare to our client and let the client decide, should you still be representing me? Right? At the same time, we talk about ethical advertising. Whatever you advertise is not, it should be about the property itself. And once the property is off the market, please remove it. Okay, confidentiality of the information, right? And as well as duty of care, not just towards your client, also towards the general public. And every agency will also have to put in place complaint management. So complaint management, it depends on the nature of the complaint. If the complaint itself involves estate agency work, you're violating the CEPCC, the Code of Ethics and Professional Client Care. Basically, as I mentioned, salesperson can be penalized up to $100,000 per case, estate agency up to $200,000 per case, suspension or revocation. If there is any dispute with a client in terms of contractual, we have prescribed an agency form. And if the prescribed agency form was used, we have two sub-schemes, either the mediation or the arbitration. You have to go only to the prescribed mediation or arbitration center. Of course, in the case of cheating or fraud, you go straight to the police. Okay, CEA, the Council for Estate Agency, will take charge. Okay, so every agent, of course, have to know the legal aspect of real estate transaction in terms of law of contract, stamp duties. In Singapore, we have what we call buyer stamp duty. Every buyer will pay, and depending on your profile, if you're a Singaporean buying a second property, PR buying a property, or even a foreigners, you have to pay not just the buyer stamp, you have to pay what we call additional buyer stamp. And in 2023, the additional buyer stamp went as high as 60%. So if you buy a $2 million condo, in Singapore, $2 million condo is quite easy, okay? It's quite common. You pay $1.2 million of additional stamp. Okay? Convincing, title search, all this will have to be done by the agents, right? And option period. So last month there was an amendment to the AML bill. That's last month. Okay? There was an amendment to the AML bill and it was passed in the court. So in regards to any AML matters as any violation, the salesperson will now be charged up to $100,000 per contravention. Not moving. Okay. Or if in the case of letter of censure, up to $5,000 per contravention. And on top of that, in align with the FATF standard, the Financial Task Force, we have to do customer due diligence on not just our own party, even the counterparty that is unrepresented. If a buyer comes without an agent, we do CDD not just on our client but also the counterparty as well. Okay, and if anyone got caught, any salesperson got caught, did not perform the AML check, basically you will not be deemed as fit and proper. Then in this case, you are not allowed to renew your registration. So agents of tomorrow, basically we have to deliver professional service excellence as well as ethical service, and at the same time I always tell my agent, okay, my members as well, always act in honesty and fairness to all your clients. Then you are very safe. Okay? Right? That's the fundamental of it. And of course, we always digital ready. With this, I basically come to the end of my presentation. I know I overrun, but somehow this slide was not the slide that I amended yesterday. Thank you.